After 20 years in a dream home, we made a shocking decision that transformed our lives forever. Emily and Tom Jenkins stared at the cluttered box in the attic, the dim light from a single lamp throwing flickering shadows across their faces. They had spent countless nights in this very attic, filled with laughter and the echoes of their children's childhood. Now, a sense of foreboding filled the air, as if the spirits of decisions long past were pressing down on their shoulders. They were on the edge of a decision that could unravel everything they had built together in the charming Cincinnati suburb. "Do you remember our dreams?" Emily mused aloud, her fingers tracing the edges of a familiar photograph. They had often envisioned a life bursting with creativity and possibility, yet had resigned themselves to the rhythm of everyday life's Sunday dinners, school meetings, and the steady buzz of adulthood. But now, a storm brewed within her. What if the vibrant dreams they shared were still alive, waiting to be reclaimed? A creak disrupted her thoughts, and Tom grasped the journal with trembling hands. The pages unfolded like buried treasure, revealing Tom's late grandmother's artistic ambition, a longing to establish an art gallery that was dashed by practicality. As Emily soaked in the passion of each line, she felt a spark ignite within her. "This could be us, Tom," she whispered, half expecting him to laugh. Instead, he remained silent, his expression a mixture of disbelief and wonder. But fascination quickly transformed into doubt. They had worked so hard to craft this life, to raise their 2 children in this very house, to guarantee stability as their kids geared up for college. Was chasing a lost dream worth unraveling everything they knew? Deep down, a dread settled in Emily's stomach like a lead weight. Could they bear the thought of abandoning their home, the memories woven into every wooden plank? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue with Tom's grandmother's dreams floating above them. Emily's determination battled against an insidious fear of change. If they dared to sell their beloved home, what would their neighbors think? The vibrant gossip of their tightly knit community was a double-edged sword. Some would cheer their boldness, others would scorn them for betraying the foundation of family. With each potential reaction playing through her mind, anger twisted with uncertainty, keeping her breath uneven. Just when they thought they had made their decision, calamity struck. The potential buyer for their home backed out, sending Emily spiraling. In that moment, confusion surged within her, swirling anxiety and regret, as she wrestled with the distance between their past and the tantalizing unknown. Was it foolish to seek a path lined with artistic fervor, even while their children geared up to leave? As the weight of their dreams pressed heavily on them, they stood at a crossroads, and a deep yearning flickered like a flame within Emily. What if their past could inform their future instead? Their worlds hung in a precarious balance, leaving Emily and Tom grasping for clarity while the uncertainties loomed large, demanding resolution that felt just out of reach, a storm waiting to break over the horizon. Emily sat on the floor of the attic, her knees drawn close as she flipped through Tom's grandmother's old journal. Each page was a testament to unfulfilled dreams, a legacy left behind like a warning sign. Words breathed life into the stories of a woman who had dared to dream, only to have the weight of responsibility crush her aspirations. She closed her eyes, feeling the sharp pang of inspiration mingled with regret. "What if," she whispered, unsure if she even believed her own words, "we could make those dreams ours?" Tom continued to sort through the box, his hands moving mechanically, as if performing a task detached from his emotions. He glanced over at Emily, eyes filled with shadows of doubt. "We can't just up and leave everything behind, Em. This house, its stability." A tremor ran through his voice, betraying the conviction behind the statement. It was true. Their home had been their sanctuary, their history, a place imbued with the footprints of their children and the mundane joys of family life. Yet, Emily felt a growing rift forming between that life and the life they had envisioned long ago. Stability, she echoed, each syllable laced with trepidation. Stability had come to define their existence, but at what cost? With their children preparing to venture into the world on their own, the security of their home felt like a gilded cage enveloping them. The idea of relinquishing that stability loomed larger than ever, and with it came the question of identity. Could they reinvent themselves at this age? Could they embrace the fear of the unknown enough to seek fulfillment, even amidst the chaos? Hours passed in silence, each tick of the clock amplifying the tension between them. Suddenly, an idea took root in Emily's mind, a plan to rediscover the spark they had both buried under layers of obligation and routine. What if we start small? She proposed, her heart racing as she uttered the words. What if we dedicate weekends to exploring art together? Volunteering at the local gallery, maybe even hosting small workshops. We don't have to commit to anything drastic yet. Tom shifted as he processed her suggestion. The notion of taking the first step without tearing everything apart intrigued him, but fear still wrapped around him like a suffocating blanket. A hobby? With everything else going on? No, Tom. Not just a hobby. This is about rediscovering who we are, together. It could be the beginning of something. Something more than just this life. Her conviction pierced through his reluctance. He knew she longed for more. The twinkle in her eyes spoke volumes of uncharted territory waiting to be explored. Just as he was about to respond, doubt resurfaced, wrapping around his thoughts like a lullaby of caution. But what if we fail? What if it leads to more uncertainty? Emily felt the weight of his words, echoing like an anthem of fear. The what-if suffocated aspirations, whispered shadows of regret for choices never taken. What if we succeed? She countered, emboldened, the prospect of growth shimmering just out of reach. What if we find joy in creating something beautiful? A tentative silence filled the space between them, with visions of art, laughter, and warmth colliding in their minds. Tom shifted again, the tension easing as he contemplated her proposal. The flickers of excitement ignited a relentless desire for change. Perhaps this small leap wouldn't unravel everything after all. Instead, it might just lead to their true selves. With a crackle of resolve hanging in the air, Emily felt her heart race at the thought of taking the reins of their lives, yet the remnants of fear lingered. They were not just two dreamers, they were adults with responsibilities and expectations weighing heavily upon them. Still, the urge to reclaim their lost potential overshadowed her fears. Before long, a realization settled in: rediscovery would demand vulnerability. The fear of failure would have to coexist with the belief in possibility. Let us try it for a month, she proposed, a month of art and exploration, and if it feels wrong, we can stop. The challenge was on, the clock was ticking. Just as relief washed over Tom's face, a shiver of exhilaration coursed through Emily. What awaited them on the other side of their fragile decision? As they rose from the attic floor, a renewed energy enveloped them, but a moment's hesitation paused their movements. The weight of the decision lingered heavily. They had taken a step, but the journey had only just begun. For Emily, the thrill of potential was intoxicating, yet one question haunted her: would they be brave enough to keep pushing forward if the backlash came? Deciding to step into the unknown meant more than just artistry, it meant reimagining every aspect of their lives. And as they descended from the attic, the promise of transformation danced just out of reach, craving a resolution only time could provide. Emily's heart raced in rhythm with the cluttered thoughts cascading through her mind as they made their way down from the attic. The sunlight streaming through the windows illuminated the dust motes that danced in the air, a reminder of the years that had passed, the memories that lingered like the fading scent of old paint. It felt both comforting and suffocating, a perfect juxtaposition that mirrored her internal struggle. The living room was a canvas of warmth, family photographs sprawled across shelves and knickknacks sandwiched between memories of the past. Yet, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they had been relegated to mere spectators in their own lives, watching as time marched forward, dragging them along in its wake. Art had become a distant fantasy, hidden beneath layers of practicality and compromise. "What will we create?" she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Tom, still holding on to the remnants of the conversation, looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Their decision lingered heavily between them like a fragile truce. "I don't know, he admitted, furrowing his brow. "It's a big change. What if we step into this and find it's not what we want after all?" The vulnerability in his voice pierced through her, revealing a crack in his resolve. Perhaps it was this very doubt that she had to confront. "But if we don't take this leap, what happens next?" She pressed, her determination flaring as she searched his gaze for understanding. "We'll only look back, always wondering. Isn't it worth discovering what we've buried?" For a moment, Tom looked away, uncertainty flickering like candlelight in his eyes. Emily could see the walls he had built to protect them impenetrable yet stifling. As he reconsidered within the sanctuary of their home, she felt the surge of determination rising in her. "Let us start today," she declared, an unexpected boldness fueling her words. "There's a local art supply store. Let us go. We can pick up some materials, and maybe after that? Tom prompted, intrigued despite himself. "We can sketch, paint, just play around with colors and ideas. Something simple, and just for us. The pressure of perfection can't stifle our joy," she insisted, feeling the shifts inside her as fear began to yield to the excitement of possibility. There was a heaviness to the air that suggested a turning point, the tipping edge of change. Tom hesitated, caught between the comfort of routine and the allure of the unknown. Emily kept her gaze steady, willing him to see the potential flickering in the dark. "Fine. Let us try," he conceded, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. The relief that washed over Emily was momentarily eclipsed by concern. What if falling into this try opened up wounds of regret or even worse, unexpected passions? But she pushed that thought aside. As they moved towards the door, Emily's mind raced with possibilities. Each step felt like an awakening, not just of creativity but of deep-seated aspirations. The small act of venturing out, of purchasing supplies, bore weight beyond mere art materials. It symbolized reclaiming fragments of themselves that had long been cast aside in the pursuit of practical responsibilities. Setting foot into the art supply store was like stepping into a kaleidoscope of inspiration. Canvas after canvas lined the walls, tubes of vibrant paint gleaming enticingly, each inviting her to dream boldly. Tom followed with cautious enthusiasm, his fingers grazing past the stacks and colors, slowly shedding his anxiety. "Look at this," Emily said, revealing a blank canvas. "Imagine what we can create." Each selection brought a surprising thrill: brushes, charcoal, watercolors, each item a tool of potential and expression, whispering the chance of exploring their identities anew. A sudden surge of fear struck again, gnawing at the base of her resolve. What if their artistic journey revealed their flaws? What if their skills never matched their passion? Yet, the moment Tom smiled as he picked up a palette, her trepidation faded. He was beginning to embrace the excitement surrounding the unknown, igniting a shared flicker of enthusiasm. After a short drive back home, their supplies cluttered the dining table like a vibrant explosion of chaos, a stark contrast to the curated calm of their usual meals. "Welcome to our new adventure," Emily quipped, laughter bubbling from her lips. "Let us see where this takes us," Tom replied, the line between apprehension and eagerness softly blurring. As they began to pull out their materials, Emily felt a sense of urgency blossoming within her, a relentless need not only to create but to peel away the layers of life that had dulled their spirits. What if they unearthed more than just artistic talent? With brush in hand, Emily could almost see the outlines of their future emerge with each stroke, revealing the contours of dreams long hidden. The momentum of their decision ignited a spark, igniting questions about their pasts, their choices, and the paths ahead. But just as they settled into their newfound enthusiasm, a knock interrupted their moment. The world outside remained focused on the stability they had crafted for years, but Emily felt the inner clock tick louder. What awaited beyond the door could pull them back into old comforts or propel them further into unfamiliar realms. Who stood waiting at their threshold, and would they dare to answer, risking everything to redefine their lives and their artistry once and for all? As Emily stood frozen, brush poised above the blank canvas, uncertainty flickered through her mind like the candlelight of doubt Tom had faced earlier. The knock at the door echoed with a resonance that sent a shiver down her spine. Was it someone from their old life, a reminder of who they were, or perhaps a chance to prove who they could become? Should I get it? Tom's voice broke through her thoughts, a subtle invitation coupled with apprehension. Let us see who it is, Emily replied, attempting to quell her tumultuous emotions. She felt a pull towards the door, as if something profound lay just beyond its threshold. Opening it, Emily was greeted by a familiar face, Melissa, their neighbor, and an artist in her own right. There were paint stains on her jeans and a brochure clutched in her hand, her eyes sparkling with a blend of enthusiasm and curiosity. Hey! I hope I'm not interrupting, she chimed, glancing past Emily into the chaos of their dining table. A spread of art supplies lay there, basking in the afternoon sun. I saw your car out front and wanted to invite you both to an art open house. It's hosted by the local artists collective. They're showcasing their work tonight. An open house. Emily could feel her heart racing again, not with fear this time, but with the pulsating beat of possibility. Tonight? Yes. You should definitely come. It's a great way to meet other artists and maybe even get inspired, Melissa urged, her enthusiasm infectious. Tom shifted beside her, uncertainty casting shadows behind his eyes. But we haven't even started anything yet. Exactly. Tonight could be the catalyst we need, Emily interjected, her inner voice rising with determination. We're just starting to explore our creativity. This might help us find direction. You know, new environments can spark innovation, Melissa added, validating Emily's convictions. You never know until you try. Just like that, the door had swung open to a new avenue, replacing the apprehensive air with more vibrant strokes of promise. Emily felt a surge of excitement flood her system, but along with it came the weight of self-consciousness. An open space filled with established artists, was she ready to expose her budding skills? Let us do it, she declared, her voice steadier than she felt. We'll go. It'll be fun. As they turned to prepare, Emily's thoughts danced between elation and trepidation. She could envision herself stepping into the art community, observed both by critical eyes and kindred spirits. There was a haunting feeling that clung to her, whispering of hidden talents and past failures. Was she making a mistake? Tom stood still for a moment longer, processing Emily's unwavering choice. Something shifted within him, a glimmer of acceptance breaking through his hesitation. All right, let us give it a shot. But can we still take some time to create something before we go? His response ignited a fire in her gut. This was getting easier, and that realization propelled her forward in a rush. Together, they set up their materials, and as paint brushed against the canvas, swirls of color mixed with angst and desire began to emerge. The art was no longer just for them, it became a canvas for sharing their burgeoning creativity with the world. Each stroke became a formulation of their emotions: hope, anxiety, passion, transforming their self-doubt into an experience to share at the open house. But as the minutes ticked by and the delivery of masterpieces tangoed with the clock, Emily felt a stirring within. With every brushstroke, she sensed the walls of her comfort zone shatter a little more, exposing an artist who had long been stifled by expectations. Suddenly a voice pierced through the building anticipation. What if you not only display your art but also showcase each other's stories? Tom suggested, an idea glimmering in his eyes. We could share what this journey means for us, how it's a metaphor for our growth. The prospect of revealing their vulnerabilities on such a stage sent a jolt of anticipation and dread through Emily's veins. Are we ready for that? She questioned, her mind racing. What if exposing their journey to others implied revealing their uncertainties and insecurities? Was she prepared to confront not just an audience, but also the judgments, both internal and external, that could come with sharing their deeply personal creative expressions? The sun dipped lower, casting their workspace in golden hues, amplifying the stakes of their choices as both artists and partners. Emily battled with her rising anxiety, knowing she stood at a precipice of artistic and personal growth. Could tonight truly mark the beginning of their redefined lives, or would it crumble under the weight of self-scrutiny? As they finalized their pieces, she made a decision. They would dive deeper into this adventure with all its fears and joys. What awaited them at the open house? As her heart pounded against her ribcage, a new question lingered like a whisper. Would they discover their true artistry or crumble beneath their ambition? Emily stood before the canvas, the colors swirling into something vibrant yet unrefined, mirroring the storm brewing inside her. Each brushstroke felt like a small rebellion against the fear that had held her captive for so long. She caught a glimpse of Tom, his brow furrowed as he poured his own emotional turmoil onto the canvas. Their shared energy crackled in the cramped space, a symphony of synchronized chaos. "What if we don't fit in tonight?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper, though the trepidation reverberated like a drum in her chest. What if they stumbled into a realm where their creativity was judged, dissected, dismissed? Tom paused, his brush hovering. What if we do? What if this is the moment that propels us forward? His gaze met hers with fierce determination, and suddenly, Emily wasn't just looking at Tom, she was seeing her partner in all his strengths, coaxing her toward an unknown destiny. Each stroke of paint underlined their collective struggle, their fears mingling with a rising tide of excitement. They had been in stasis for so long. The move had stripped them of their old lives but granted them a clean slate, a blank canvas to fill with possibility. Emily could feel her resolve hardening. If she could confront the eminent open house with vulnerability as her armor, perhaps she would slay the monsters lurking in her mind. As the final touches settled into place, Emily felt a surge of empowerment that had eluded her for years. Determination crystallized into clarity. She couldn't allow fear to stifle her voice any longer. Tonight was more than just an open house, it was an opportunity to redefine how she viewed herself. "I'm ready," she finally said, her tone steady. The hesitance in her blood slowly dissipated, replaced by an exhilarating heat. "We can share our story, showcase what we've created, and make our journey real." Tom nodded, a slow smile creeping onto his face. "It's not just about the art. It's also about us, what we've been through to get here." The realization washed over her, a tingling resonance that tied them together deeper still. They were not merely amateurs fumbling their way through a new hobby. They were artists ready to confront their respective pasts in all its raw glory. After one last glance at their work, they began gathering their pieces, a ritual filled with both excitement and trepidation. Emily paused, examining their paintings, new friendships intertwined with fear, joy tangled with insecurities. Was she truly ready to lay bare her soul for strangers to see? In the car, silence enveloped them for a moment as they navigated the road toward the open house. The darkness outside mirrored her thoughts, forming a cocoon of contemplation. With every mile, her breathing quickened, anticipation clawed at the edges of her resolve. "What if they don't see us?" she asked, her voice shaky. A fear settled deeper. What if their vulnerability was met with indifference? Tom turned to her, his expression earnest. "That's the risk we have to take, isn't it? Think about how far we've come. No one can diminish our growth unless we allow them to define it." His words sank into her, an anchor as they continued onward. The building loomed ahead, its lights spilling onto the pavement like a warm invitation. A swell of artists gathered outside, each face a blend of eagerness and apprehension. A momentary pause consumed her as uncertainty washed over her. "It's the beginning of something new," Emily reminded herself, drawing the air deep into her lungs. With a resolve she hadn't known she possessed, she stepped out of the car, Tom beside her. They moved toward the entrance, absorbed in a swell of anticipation. Tonight wasn't about validation, it was about discovery, a weaving of two lives into one shared narrative. As they crossed the threshold, the buzz of laughter and conversation enveloped them. Fear threatened to creep back in, but Emily held on to the flickering embers of courage ignited earlier. Then, she caught a glimpse of a familiar figure at the end of the room, a renowned local artist. Someone she had admired from afar, a living testament to the creative path she longed to tread. What would it take to not just see this moment as an obstacle but as an opportunity? As she approached, a question loomed larger than any fear. Would her voice be heard, or was she still the artist in hiding? The answer awaited her, nestled in the connections they were about to forge. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the air thick with creativity, anxiety, and possibility. Each step felt monumental, like walking toward a chasm that could either swallow her whole or reveal a hidden realm of potential. The laughter of other artists swirled around her, punctuating her thoughts, waging war with her insecurities. Did they even belong here? Was she worthy of sharing her art within this vibrant tapestry of talent? As she and Tom approached the renowned artist, Emily felt a weighty concoction of admiration and envy bubble within her. The artist stood by a vast canvas, her strokes animated and confident. Emily's heart raced. This was the embodiment of everything she aspired to become, a person who wasn't afraid to capture their essence boldly. But she feared this would only serve as a painful reminder of her own perceived inadequacies. Emily? Tom's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. He nudged her gently, a silent prompt to engage. The artist turned, her gaze landing on them as she smiled warmly. What do you think of the piece? It's incredible, Emily replied, the words spilling out perhaps a bit too hastily. I love how you've interpreted the colors. They feel electric. Thank you. Colors can represent so much, don't you think? The artist's eyes gleamed with an unmistakable passion. What do you use them for in your work? Stunned by the unexpected question, Emily's heart thudded. I want to reflect the chaos and beauty of life, I suppose. I'm still figuring it out. Nothing wrong with that. Art is meant to be a process of discovery, the artist said. Your journey is just as important as the destination. It's the rawness that resonates with people. Emily let the words echo within her, each one offering a sliver of recognition. Do you have any pieces here tonight? The artist continued. Yeah, just a couple, she answered, nodding toward her work without glancing back. The anxiety that had coiled around her was slowly loosening its grip. I'd love to see them. Remember that what you view as imperfections often lead to the greatest dialogues. Resilience surged within Emily, battling the remaining hesitation as determination solidified her stance. I'm ready to share, she said, more impressed by the strength in her voice than the thoughts that preceded it. With a gentle nudge from Tom, they maneuvered through the crowd, seeking their paintings like lost children yearning for affirmation. Emily felt her surroundings morph into a living canvas, a palette of aspirations and caution. When they finally stood before her pieces, her once tangible fears morphed into intangible vulnerabilities. Each brushstroke carried echoes of her journey, the nights filled with doubt, heartache, and determination. The moment felt surreal. She could hear snippets of conversation around her, some praising the colors and others pondering the underlying themes. I think they're beautiful, Tom said nearby, and in his voice, she sensed a sincerity that ignited her deeper. Your vulnerability opens the door for connection. Just then, another artist joined them. These pieces, they've stuck with me since I walked past. They feel like a mirror. A rush of warmth enveloped Emily, igniting her from within. The affirmation was transformative, sewing pieces of her fractured self back together. She was no longer just an observer, she was a participant in this shared conversation of creativity. The connection, vulnerability, and spirit enveloped her like a welcoming embrace. Yet, the cracks within her began to show. Just as she started to bask in the newfound acknowledgement, doubts whispered in her ear. What if this moment turned out to be fleeting? What if tomorrow's reality drowned out tonight's validation? Struggling with the conflicting emotions swirling inside, Emily turned back to Tom. Would he continue to stand beside her as she explored this new terrain? A deeper uncertainty peeked through her brave facade. Before she could voice her worries, the renowned artist reappeared, her approach commanding yet gentle. I can feel the passion behind your work, Emily. I urge you take this fire and carve out your place. The gravity of those words weighed heavily on Emily's heart. Here was an opportunity to step into a realm of authenticity. Are you ready? Tom's quiet voice drew her focus back to the present. Emily steadied herself. She realized that finding her artistic identity meant confronting not only the gallery's walls but also the walls she had built within herself. In a heartbeat, the echo of the artist's encouragement seeped into her core. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight had ignited a light she hadn't known she possessed. The moment to either commit or retreat beckoned. Would she take the leap forward, allowing her voice to resonate where it had remained muted for so long, or would she retreat into the shadows again? In that charged atmosphere, Emily felt the questions swirl around her. The moment of truth was at hand. It was time to embrace the artist she had always dreamed of becoming. There was no turning back now. Determined to chart her new course, she stepped into the unknown. She could no longer allow fear to dictate her journey. She needed to ask herself a crucial question. How far was she willing to go to forge her identity in a world that now seemed full of possibilities? And in the back of her mind lingered a troubling thought, poised to trip her up as she moved ahead. What would happen when the journey proved more tumultuous than her most challenging brushstroke? The following morning, Emily awoke to the sunlight streaming through her window. It felt like a spotlight, illuminating the paradoxical nature of her existence, a blend of vibrant possibilities intertwined with insecurities. The events of last night replayed in her mind, tantalizing yet daunting. She was no longer simply a participant but an emerging force determined to find her voice. The day stretched before her, ripe for exploration. Armed with a cup of coffee and her sketchbook, she settled at her kitchen table, where she could watch the world outside. A sense of urgency pulsed beneath her skin, a desire to seize the momentum ignited by the gallery experience. She needed to channel the fire she felt, the thrill of vulnerability welcomed into her craft. As her pencil skated across the page, she realized that it was time to confront the foundations of her own creativity. What had held her back? Fear of failure, sure, but something deeper lurked beneath, an obsession with perfectionism. Every curve, every detail in her art had become shackled by the weight of expectation. Her lines danced across the page, tracing the contours of her insecurities and unrealized dreams. But today, for the first time, she allowed herself to embrace exaggerated forms, presenting imperfections as raw honesty, a departure from the distressing grip of perfection. Imperfectly beautiful, she whispered, the phrase resonating like a mantra. It propelled her to question what lay beyond an unyielding rule book governed by self-criticism. Even as her thoughts flowed freely onto the paper, an unsettling notion crept back into her consciousness. What if her newfound revelations ultimately led to disappointment? The specter of failure loomed in the periphery, threatening to assert its presence yet again. Determined to combat this internal tempest, she flipped open her sketchbook. Instead of just drawing, she began to jot down her artistic aspirations for the coming months. Each line was an expression of commitment not only to her art but to herself. She wrote about exploring new mediums, connecting with other artists, and perhaps even curating her first independent exhibition. The fear that previously paralyzed her began to dissipate, replaced by the exhilaration of possibility. As afternoon arrived, her phone buzzed with a message from Tom. How about meeting at that little cafe? I think you'll love it. A simple invitation, yet it felt layered with implications. She hesitated briefly, wondering whether to hide behind her solitary craft or step into the realm of social interaction again. The cafe loomed as a proving ground, a snapshot of her willingness to engage and collaborate. Okay, she replied, summoning her resolve. The cafe was a tapestry of energy. As she entered, the heady scent of coffee hung in the air, mingling with laughter and conversation. Tom waved vigorously from a corner table, his smile sending a warmth through her. He was a steadfast anchor, embodying an unconditional belief in her artistic journey that she both craved and feared. Settling into a chair, she could feel the flutter of anxiety return. They exchanged pleasantries, but Emily knew beneath her casual tone lurked the heaviness of her unprocessed thoughts, the battle between her ambition and self-doubt. As they sipped their drinks, she found her mind drifting toward the renowned artistess' words. Do you ever think about being in charge of your own exhibition someday? Tom queried, casually but with a knowing look. His inquiry ignited something deep within her. There it was, the thread of opportunity, beckoning her to grasp it while exposing the raw edges of her uncertainty. Actually, yes. I've been considering hosting my own show, she said, testing the declaration as it left her lips. Encouragement sparkled in Tom's eyes. That's fantastic. You've got the talent, it's just the push you need. The words settled between them, heavy with potential. He was right, now was the time to shift from wanting to being. And yet, A wave of panic rippled through her at the thought of putting her work on display, vulnerable and bare to judgment. What if no one showed up? What if no one cared? She clenched her fist, determined to turn those negative possibilities into questions of resilience. What if I created something so honest it resonated with others? What if I dared to be truly seen? As birds chirped outside, the noise blended with the cafe ambience, symbolizing the world's broader acceptance of imperfection. The connection she yearned for was neither about numbers nor accolades, it was about embracing her essence. Could I really do this? She wondered, when the answer began to bloom within her, a defiant affirmation against her self-imposed limitations. However, a lingering doubt whispered its familiar refrain. Would the pursuit of her artistic identity lead her into an emotional labyrinth, forcing her to confront more than the external challenges of creativity? As the sun dipped low in the sky, Emily felt a shift within. She realized she had a choice: let fear direct her narrative or choose to navigate through it, armed with curiosity and resolve. Would she take the first bold step towards fulfilling her long-held dream? Or, as shadows grew, would she retreat once more into the comfort of obscurity? The answer awaited her, threaded through the challenge of embracing her own truth. Emily sat in the cafe, the clinking of cups and gentle murmur of conversations swirling around her like an enveloping fog. The moment Tom had asked about her exhibition, a fissure had opened in her self-doubt, allowing a sliver of light to penetrate. She was verging on something significant, yet the reality of it all felt like diving into a river without knowing its depth. What's your first step? Tom's question ripped through her thoughts, and she blinked, momentarily disoriented. First step? She echoed, trying to unravel the conceptual jar in which her mind had been trapped. Yes. What will you do? Curate? Sketch? Are you thinking about a theme? His eyes twinkled with encouragement, as though he were handing her the keys to a new kingdom. The question reverberated through her. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. Maybe I could start with a theme that centers on vulnerability, she suggested hesitantly, her voice barely steady. Exploring the beauty in imperfection. Sounds brilliant, he replied, leaning forward, genuinely interested. You'll have a unique angle. You've been through a personal evolution, it's only natural to channel that. His words seemed to dance around her like fireflies, igniting something primal within her. She envisioned pieces that reflected her journey, fragmented, raw, yet somehow breathtaking. What would it feel like to display her heart in such a blatant way? For a fleeting moment, she felt liberated by the thought. She could finally turn her insecurities into art, shape them into something tangible. Yet, a visceral dread was waiting in the wings, whispering tales of rejection and judgment. But what if I fail? What if no one understands? The questions spilled from her uneasily, the tremors of anxiety rippling through her. Failure isn't the end. It's just another step in the process, Tom reassured her, his tone relaxed but firm. Every artist faces it. Plus, you have your audience. They want to connect with the real you. The importance of connection tugged at Emily, as the fear began to morph into a different kind of energy. What if I just put it out there? She thought. Right. So, what's stopping you? It was a simple question, yet it sparked a chain reaction inside her. As they finished their drinks, Emily scribbled in her notebook not just aspirations, but actionable steps. Research venues, reach out to artists for collaboration, experiment with different materials. Involving Tom became another cornerstone, a creative ally to share her journey. The coffee shop buzz faded into the background as she sketched out her plans. Each stroke of the pencil mirrored her shifting resolve. The lighting in the cafe dulled as evening deepened, but the flicker of inspiration burned brightly in her chest. This was not just about showcasing her work, it was a confrontation of self-acceptance. Opening her heart to others felt like the most wondrous risk she might ever take. I want to create something that resonates, to forge a bond of shared understanding, she whispered to herself. Then a thought struck her, one she hadn't considered before. What if I turned the whole project into a journey? An interactive experience where viewers participate in their own expressions of vulnerability? Tom leaned closer, visibly intrigued. That's innovative. You could have a section where each visitor contributes their own stories or art pieces. Right, creating a collective tapestry of experiences. Each suggestion lifted another layer of hesitation from Emily's spirit, growing her sense of urgency. But with creativity came more questions. What if her idea was too ambitious? What if her vision collapsed under its own weight? As they wrapped up their conversations, those doubts skittered around her mind, sharp and pervasive. Yet there was a new flame intermingling with that fear, a desire to push past the familiar stripes of self-imposed boundaries. Tomorrow, she thought, I will begin. No more stalling. As she left the cafe with Tom, an excitement buzzed in the air, interspersed with tension. It was a boundary crossed, a commitment to herself that she hadn't dared to embrace fully before. Would she awaken tomorrow ready to take on the world, or would yesterday's fears encroach once more, stifling her burgeoning creativity? The dawn might hold promises and disappointments alike, but Emily was determined to face whatever came, tapping into the strength that lay just beneath her surface. The moment of truth slid closer, and with it, the reality of becoming the artist she longed to be. Would her exhibition become a cathartic exploration of vulnerability, or would stepping into the light expose her to unforeseen shadows? The sun crested over the horizon, illuminating Emily's bedroom in soft, pastel hues. The morning light spilled through her window like a gentle invitation to rise. She sat up, the rush of yesterday's resolve still coursing through her veins. Today wasn't just another day, it was the first step toward manifesting her vision. With a deliberate calm, Emily set the tone for her new chapter. The first item on her agenda was to visit the local art supply store. She needed to cultivate her space with tools that matched her burgeoning ambition, things that would aid her in translating the abstract emotions stirring within her into something tangible. Stepping outside, the fresh air wrapped around her like a warm embrace, coaxing her into a mindset of exploration. Yet, doubt whispered in the corners of her mind. What if she picked the wrong materials? What if the moment she touched paper, the creativity vanished? Squashing those thoughts, she reminded herself of Tom's encouragement. This was her journey, and she wouldn't stop before it began. The store was a treasure trove of colors and textures. The vibrant display sparked her imagination, igniting fragments of ideas that had been strewn about in her mind like neglected brushstrokes. She picked up a sketchbook, its smooth surface promising a blank canvas for the chapters of her evolution. As she filled her cart with pastels, watercolors, and mixed media supplies, she felt a strange blend of excitement and trepidation. What if these tools anticipated greatness she wasn't ready to meet? In the midst of her shopping, a voice pulled her focus. "Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice you have quite the eye for colors." It was a woman, her enthusiasm piercing through Emily's internal musings. "Are you an artist?" Emily hesitated, her shoulders tightening involuntarily. "I'm working on a project," she finally said, words feeling both bold and fragile. "That's fantastic. What is your theme?" The woman leaned in, genuine curiosity shining in her eyes. With a newfound clarity, Emily spoke of her vision, the concept of vulnerability, and the desire to create an interactive art experience. "The idea is to explore imperfections, to create a space where people can express their own vulnerabilities." "Wow, that sounds incredible. Art should unravel our truths, shouldn't it?" The woman's enthusiasm reflected back to Emily, raising her gaze. Suddenly, the doubts that had laced her thoughts began to unravel in the face of this unexpected exchange. "Exactly. I want it to be a conversation starter," she articulated, her voice steady. "Let me know if you need a model for your project." Vulnerability thrives with authenticity, and I have plenty of stories, the woman smiled, handing Emily her business card. As they parted ways, Emily felt buoyed by the encounter. Back in her apartment, she sprawled her supplies across the table, her mind racing with possibilities. Sketching simple outlines of her ideas felt liberating, yet the fear niggled again. How would she invite others into her narrative without setting herself up for raw exposure? Was she prepared to confront her own vulnerabilities merely to express them through art? As she paced her space, a realization struck her. Perhaps her project was dual-faceted, it could be not just an exhibition of her work but also a representation of her journey through imperfection. She would need to share her own vulnerabilities first, offer the audience a piece of herself. That was the essence of connection. Determined to plan this unveiling, she crafted a new roadmap in her notebook. Identify personal experiences to share, create an interactive component, extend personalized invitations to those she trusted. But even as she sketched out these steps, a deep-seated anxiety hovered. Was she ready to lay herself bare? To open herself to judgment and understanding? The thought loomed large, threatening to block her path. But for the first time, she welcomed the discomfort instead of shying away. This was the essence of growth, wasn't it? With exhilaration mingled with trepidation, Emily surrendered to the idea that the most fascinating art could arise from confronting the truths she had often hidden. As evening descended, she positioned her supplies strategically on her workspace, ready to embrace a late-night creative session. Perhaps this would yield the first piece of her exhibition, a self-portrait of sorts, layered with memories. But as she stared at the blank page before her, the full weight of her task pressed upon her. The moment felt electrifying, yet paralyzed by uncertainty within the shadows of self-doubt, she hesitated. Would this be her cathartic release or the frightening plunge into the depths of her own psyche? With a deep breath, the keyboard's gentle click beckoned her to write the first identifier of the journey she would take. But would the choices she faced propel her forward or pull her back into the encumbering fog of fear? Emily stood confidently in her brightly lit studio, sunlight pouring through the vast windows, bathing her in warm hues of golden potential. It felt surreal. The room that had once represented her insecurities was now a sanctuary of creation. Each canvas surrounding her told a story, a testament to her transformation from a hesitant dreamer to a driven artist determined to carve her niche. After weeks of diligent work and exploration, the exhibition she had envisioned was finally materializing. The theme embracing imperfection had resonated deep within her. It was a call to embrace vulnerability, inviting others to share their own narratives. As Tom entered the studio, a broad smile spread across his face, radiating pride. "Everything looks incredible. You really did it, Em," he exclaimed, his approval echoing through the spacious area filled with vibrant colors, textures, and carefully displayed artworks. Emily could hardly contain the rush of accomplishment surging within her. She had confronted each layer of self-doubt, transforming it into a piece of art that reflected not only her journey but also the collective experiences of those she inspired. The feedback she had received from early visitors who previewed the installation had been overwhelmingly positive. "Your honesty opens doors for us," someone had said, validating her quest for authenticity. "Thank you," she breathed, clutching a paintbrush as if it were a magical wand granting her the ability to create without fear. Inspiration spun around her like a cyclone, invigorating her spirit. Each piece had evolved from the vulnerable materials of her own life, drawing connections from her past to the aspirations she now confidently pursued. Determined to ensure that her exhibition resonated with those who would come, Emily had incorporated an interactive element where participants were encouraged to write down and display their own stories of vulnerability. This added a profound layer to the experience, one that invited collective healing through shared narratives. She could picture the community coming together, drawn into this welcoming and nurturing space. "Tonight's the night," Emily said, stepping back to admire a final canvas and abstract representation of the chaos and beauty of life. It signified her journey toward acceptance, the acceptance of both imperfections and triumphs. "I can't wait to see people react. They're going to connect with it all so deeply." "I know it," Tom said, his excitement growing palpable. "Yes. All those analogies about peeling back layers, they're going to see their stories reflected," she agreed with a gleeful smile. "I didn't just create art, I built a bridge for others to share their truths." As dusk settled, Emily found herself reflecting on the path she had traveled, from the confines of her cluttered attic filled with the echoes of responsibility to this expansive space where she could express her soul. The paradox of safety versus fear had shifted. She no longer felt caged by expectations, but empowered by relentless potential. That evening, as guests arrived, a steady stream of laughter and conversations filled the air. The welcoming ambience buzzed with energy, a tapestry woven from myriad voices sharing stories and inspirations. The discussions ignited breakthroughs, and Emily found herself engaging with her guests in ways she had once thought impossible. "Can you tell me about the piece?" asked an attendee, their eyes glimmering with curiosity. "It represents the chaos and beauty in vulnerability," Emily began, the words flowing freely now. "It's both about what we hide and what we reveal. By facing our imperfections, we unlock authenticity." With every interaction, she felt the heart of her exhibition pulse stronger. It was no longer just a showcase of her art, but a moving dialogue echoing through the room. The more she shared her journey, the more she discovered her solid confidence, her recognized competence. Later in the evening, surrounded by a circle of newfound friends and supporters, someone asked, "Emily, how did you find the courage to confront yourself so openly?" In that moment, clarity washed over her. These conversations were the very essence of her metamorphosis into the artist she had always aspired to be. "It's a journey of self-acceptance," she replied, her voice steady and assured. "This exhibition represents my willingness to embrace both my artistry and my evolution. And I hope it encourages each of you to recognize the beauty in your own stories." The warmth of shared experiences ignited a deep sense of fulfillment within Emily. She felt she belonged. Walls that had once stood between her dreams and reality now lay in ruins, allowing bright rays of opportunity to cascade through. The night wore on, and as the last guests exchanged farewells, Emily felt a profound joy resonating from her core. She had not only achieved her dream of exhibiting her art, she had returned to herself, conquering the many layers that obscured her true identity. This was the beginning of something beautiful, she thought, reflecting on the solid foundation she had created for herself. The girl who once stood frozen in the face of her dreams was no more. Emily had emerged resolutely as an artist, and it felt immensely satisfying. The journey wasn't just about the art created, it was about understanding oneself, confronting fears, and embracing the potential waiting just beneath the surface. As the gallery lights dimmed and the final echoes of laughter faded, Emily knew she had built something enduring: an exhibition, yes, but more importantly, a life redefined. Now was the time for her to move forward, not only as an artist but as a champion of vulnerability, urging others to share their own stories. Would they grasp this opportunity as she had? Inspiration lay in the power of connection, and she was ready to embark on this journey alongside all those willing to share their truths. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to share.